Special thanks to Mr. Turhan for his valuable presentation. Let us carry on with the second session that is called Insurtech and Beyond. Insurtech is a buzzword and a trending topic in the insurance industry. It refers to applications with AI, Internet of Things, machine learning, data analytics, risk management, and intelligent robots. The Insurtech influence is the primary goal of this session, of which its speakers will bring to the board towards their professional experience. Speakers will delve into practitioners' experience in various markets across the globe. We will have Onur Turhan from Hesapkurdu, Robin Kiera from Digital Scouting, and Christian van Leeuwen from Friss, and Marijan Mumdžiev from Amodo.
Hello, welcome to our panel, Insurtech and Beyond. And I'm quite privileged here with three valuable guests representing various parts of the value chain and also various parts of the Insurtech ecosystem. So let me start by introducing who we have on board, and then I hope we have a good conversation together today. So Robin, I had a chance to chat with him recently, actually. He has a company, Digital Scouting, a platform with over 70,000 followers, sharing best practices across the industry, and also acting as a consulting company, bringing customers, building digital products, and he also has involvements with several startups and corporations as an advisory board member. I'm sure he'll fill in the blanks as he's speaking, but welcome, Robin.
Thank you very much for having me.
We have Christian from Friss. He's the CTO and co-founder of Friss. Friss offers real-time fraud detection, analytics, and case management solutions for insurance companies. And I am actually also quite interested in their solutions, and I had the chance to learn a bit about them before the panel. So it was very, very interesting for me. I look forward to hearing more. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for having me.
And also Marijan, he's the CEO of Amodo, active in the insurance telematics space. Amodo enables insurance companies to create new products and services based on usage and behavior data. And telematics is quite a talked about space concept, and I don't think we know enough about it still. So it will be interesting to get your perspectives. Welcome, Marijan.
Thank you, Onur. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. So I guess this is the topic of most panels lately, but I will invite you to talk about COVID a bit, because we found ourselves in this situation. It's been one of our main concerns for the past several months and continues to be so. So from an Insurtech provider or service provider perspective, how did COVID change focus areas or priorities of insurance company executives? What is the industry trying to solve these days? And maybe what does this signal on where we might find ourselves once COVID is over? So if you could all share your perspectives a bit on this, it will be quite valuable. Robin, maybe you can start.
Yeah, happy to. So I think we all had the first shock in March, and we adapted to digital technology. We changed the way we sell. We changed the way how we organize our work. We have working from home in a lot of cases around the industry, I think around the globe. Nevertheless, the big challenges, of course, are now what is happening with the second wave, possible wave, and will that actually damage also the core of the industry, especially when a lot of, maybe a lot of clients of ours go out of business. That's, I think, the big question currently.
Mm-hmm. That's a major question, right? So I'm wondering if that's already happening, though. Christian, do you have something to add?
Yeah. So, so what we've noticed in the early stages is that actually the number of claims were dropping because less claims came in. But the expectation was that the fraud levels would go up quite a bit. And we even did a recent study as Friss in over 52 countries actually, and asked the people who were in the survey what, let's say, the main impact was on the insurance companies by COVID. And actually, they said also that almost 20% of claims do have an element of fraud in there. And they see three major impacts on the work that an insurance company does today. So increased workloads, because they're in adapting to work with the new situation, and also having to do remote inspections, which also makes it fewer inspections because it's not only going as smooth as they planned it, and an increase in suspected fraud. And we asked also in the survey on what are then the key priorities going forward. So, and almost 65% answered that their main focus is to see an increased level of digitalization throughout their entire processes that they have. They're also working a lot on reducing cost, and of course they see an increased level of fraud. So they are also working on getting more automated fraud checks in place to make sure that in a digital world they can also run a safe business. That's a lot what we got back from where we are in COVID today.
So this has something to do with reaching the customer remotely, but also making their P&L better, I guess, right? Because some of what you're counting also serves that.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's in terms of serving the customer well, and by opening new ways in the digital world to do that, it also unlocks new potential of, let's say, higher risk or fraud. So in better serving the customer well, you can just simply say, pay out every claim. So you also need to do inspections. So, but the whole world is changing, and that's, I think, what is on the plate of every C-level executive in the insurance industry, is that they're working with these priorities to become more digital and how to adapt to the new situation.
Can we say this is across life and non-life, or any specific part of the sector?
Yeah, so this survey that's mainly targeted at the non-life industry, and I think so. I do think it's across the entire industry. Also in health, we see a lot of this happening today.
Mm-hmm. And do you see them able to take action quickly on these items that are on their list? Do you think we will see ourselves in an industry that have started operating that way post-COVID?
Absolutely, yes. We have seen a lot of nice examples where insurance carriers and companies are actually transformed the way that they operate completely to digital. So they've started working with video adjustments where they are able to investigate or help the customer with assessing the claim that is currently taking place in the home, for instance. So they are adapting to this new world quite rapidly. Yeah, we see a very positive trend there.
Cool. And you as Friss, I assume, have some customers already working on implementing these, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And next to that, we're helping them also where we've seen that the process becomes more digital, and also how can we safely help them in this digital world, because as I mentioned before, it opens up a whole new of like risks and fraud schemes that may happen because of this digital operation that currently exists. So even so, apart from the COVID situation where we see sort of the same fraud schemes, but we see them happening more because when people are in financial distress, they often try to get more money, and that hurts the honest customers. And that's our vision and strategy as a company, to help insurance become more honest and to help them to serve the genuine customers better. But in this digital world, we look for ways to help the insurance companies to set up the right checks and balances in their automated process to fight these challenges that come with that.
Great. And Marijan, what's your take on this? How do you see the market evolving, and what are the executives grappling with, the ones that you're working with?
Well, I mean, first of all, Amodo is in a B2B2C space, which clearly allows us to have a little bit more insights on what is happening with the end consumers, and how, based on this trend, habits and preferences of the end consumers are being shaped and changed. I think all of us are very well aware of the situation with the traveling possibilities and how that impacted insurance business. But from our data, we could also see a very interesting pattern emerging in the motor insurance space. So we have seen that although indeed some portion of the users are traveling and driving their cars less, we have also seen portion of the users and drivers driving significantly more. So generally, the whole distribution of the driving distance, what we observed from the data, it doesn't correspond to the expected natural normal distribution that we had before. And clearly, this is something that is going to reflect on the optimal business model that needs to be put in on the market by the insurance companies. So by understanding the end consumer shift in preferences and habits, we are trying to understand how and observing how insurance companies respond to that. And therefore, we have observed a number of things. First of all, we understand that the response can be generally structured across three main phases, at least talking with our customers, but also some other insurance companies as well. And the first phase was clearly for everyone, for most of the industries by far, what Robin mentioned, let's call it a shock phase, where you simply, stand still and observe what's going to happen. And the second phase is more where the insurance companies, as any other relevant stakeholders, of course, in this situation, does more analysis and planning. And now we are seeing really a start of the execution by many of these insurance companies based on those plans derived from the second phase. So it was a gradual process. It had a couple of different stages. I think those stages have been rather normal given the circumstances and situation. And but most importantly, it is a very relevant to assess insurance behavior in the context of the shift in consumer preferences and their behavior.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of there's a big wave of questions and challenges that they're trying to work on, and so this brings me to the second question. There's a lot of hype around Insurtech, and I'm assuming that all of you guys should be attracting interest from potential clients with a wide range of maturity in organizational and technical ways, structures. I'm wondering if this changes the ways they engage with you, and what are the biggest and most typical challenges you encounter that make it difficult to work with certain clients? What are the common areas where they typically get stuck? What should they be thinking about before coming to you? And here, I'm assuming Robin would be the kind of person who would be preparing these clients to be coming to you guys as well, in some ways, or at least planning the agenda, the strategy. So maybe I'll first give the word to Christian and Marijan, and then ask Robin to add.
Yeah, so first of all, I think what some of the challenges we encounter is helping our customers remotely. So completely also working and serving them remotely, where we would fly across the world to visit our customers and help them on board using our platform, or help them when they are a long time customer already, help them move forward with it. We've adapted to a completely remote way of working also together with our customers. And I think it's something where we would not have been able to do that without also this COVID. So if anything good has come from this, it's that it saves us a lot of travel time, but also it increases in some cases the speed of decision making and working and collaborating together. I think if we look at the specific Insurtech setup and where the challenges that customers currently have in the space, so tied to the previous topic as well. So I think, and also what Marijan mentioned, is that the patterns in which customers use insurance also change, because we've seen that like typical small businesses, they have to adapt, because if they were in hospitality, or they need to change their business model, and they are suddenly exposed to new types of risks that were not there before. So also the insurance companies, they adapt in trying to find, let's say, the services that they offer, like in what policies and what risks they offer is something which they need to adapt to as well, to still serve that customer, because in a changing world, the risks that they encounter, their customers encounter, is also changed, and it might not completely cover that. So we we think along with our customers how we can assess those risks, and also do more or less in terms of monitoring, proactive monitoring, to see these changes happening and then highlight those, and then the insurance professionals can then see how they can adapt their products to that changing environment and situation. It also opens up a lot of possibilities to more or less move forward to the earlier in the value chain, to move to underwriting, for instance, where you would not sit and wait while a claim happens, but yeah, once a customer on board, you look at the risk differently, and you can have a more data-driven risk profile, which also supports the digital process, but also allows the insurance carrier and the customer to discuss together what the best policy is for them to take, and if the insurance company is willing to take that risk, and also to be open about it to the customers. So that is where the business is changing. And one, I think, other topic to mention, and these topics are more or less, so in this digital world, and data is becoming more and more important and really valuable. We've seen that trend going on for quite a while, also with the use of AI in almost all parts of the insurance processes. So the challenge that we often see is that there is data, but yeah, data is always lacks a certain quality, or the data is not available at that point in the process where you want to use it. And there is exactly where an Insurtech can really help an insurance company as well. And so I think, and maybe Marijan can, we'll tap into that later as well, but we see that even without, let's say, where quality is a bit not what we would expect, by using our platform, we can help them build up better quality data over time, and still be effective from day one and have return on investment on that. So that's a challenge what we see in the last part, and then is that we've seen also in the insurance space is that more and more the platform play trend will come. So more and more companies offer a platform which ties everything to everything, like a lot of services. And I think the insurance companies' challenge is also, yeah, who can I work with? What platform do I choose, and how will that help me use like other very specialistic Insurtech services that are maybe already connected in such a platform, which will much more easily be used in a way that that by doing it all themselves, they can also use such a platform to start using these very specialistic services as well. And sorry, Siri wanted to mention something, but this was the topic.
So at an earlier meetup, I had asked Robin about some major trends he is observing, and I remember him giving the example of platforms and cloud-driven services. Yeah. I totally get what you mentioned, and it sounds like data is key for you. So if you have a client that comes to you with the structured data collected properly, I guess that's quite a good starting place, right?
Absolutely, but even where it's not available, we can already help a lot in making the transition from structured, and where you can use more structured data, also new types of data sets, but also unstructured data. As you can imagine, in becoming more digital, you also need to process unstructured data in a digital way, and that brings all kinds of new challenges for insurance companies, and that's where we also help out. Yeah.
So in a way, insurance companies evolve together with the Insurtech services they're trying to acquire. They're trying to get.
Yeah.
Okay, Marijan, do you have some additions to that?
Sure. I mean, one thing you could pick up from this, from Christian's response, is that Christian is mentioning a lot of change a lot, and this is definitely what everything is about. So we shouldn't forget about it. This the whole COVID situation, as we discussed in a previous point, caused a market to change, and this requires an insurance company to change. And every human, Homo sapiens, is fighting the change, right? It's kind of an instinctive reaction to the change. So coming to your question, like what are the barriers, what frictions do we experience in trying to evolve together with our insurance clients? I mean, first of all, we work with phenomenal people usually from innovation department or very progressive, forward-looking people from the business units. But what we also see is that they themselves tend to fight against the old kind of thinking, old mindsets, and are fighting this change internally. So there we see the most friction. And what I think is important really for the ecosystem, and in this respect, insurance companies to understand, which I believe many of them already do, is that yes, a portion of the innovation can and hopefully will continue to come from the vendor side. And we all do everything in our power to innovate, to bring the new products and the improvements in the insurance space. Nonetheless, this is not where the innovation stops. The significant portion of the innovation, whether in business models, or processes, or product side, organizational side, is something that the insurance company itself needs to address properly so as to be able to evolve together with all the innovative vendors that are out there on the market, as Christian also mentioned. So I think this is really an important prerequisite to gain the most out of the collaboration with innovative insurtech companies. And this is also something that we believe strongly from our experience causes usually the friction between the desired timelines to change and to adapt to the market environment compared to the real timelines until the certain product or proposition is launched, a certain change in the processes is done, and so on.
Okay, so we lost one of the panelists. Robin is gone, hopefully temporarily, but we'll see what we can do about that. So Marijan gave an interesting answer to the previous question. He said yes, there are challenges, and some of those challenges are about organizational maturity. Or that's what I took away from your response. And that's very interesting because that is difficult to fix. It probably requires time or maybe some experience to work with an insurtech. Am I right?
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. I think this is the result of this challenge, and ultimate outcome is going to be reflected in the way the industry develops, because we see many new players addressing this particular gap between what the customers would ideally want to have and what the old, mature, traditional incumbent insurance companies can offer, given the huge focus on core business and a very robust system that they have to work within. So clearly this creates an opportunity that many new players, digital insurance brokers such as Lemonade, Oscar, Root Insurance, Metromile, VFox, and the others are trying to address. So this is really an industry play, and how industry is going to change based on this is something that is going to evolve in front of our eyes over the next three to 5 years. But we can already see certain trends going in favor of the new players that are much more flexible and agile to accommodate the new change on the market in a timely manner. So this is, I also believe, the threat of new entrants is one of the biggest threats that insurance companies, see today in terms of maintaining their market position.
Very interesting. And how does that impact services they get from you? Like, does that make them approach you more proactively than before?
We feel it in a way that number of clients that will correspond to this profile of being new digital insurance broker compared to the traditional insurance companies that we have is rising. So we put the equal importance for the, of course, traditional incumbent insurance companies willing to innovate and willing to improve their position on the market by leveraging these advanced technologies, as we do to the new players, to the challengers on the market that want to address this newly given market opportunity as well. So we really see a surge of requests coming from that kind of players, which is giving us an insight into how the whole industry is developing and how it might play out in the long run.
Cool. So maybe in the absence of Robin, I can give some ideas from him, because I recently had a conversation with him, and I remember myself regarding this maturity concept, maturity of an organization. I was trying to push him to give me an answer on different markets, maturity of different markets, more developed insurance markets versus developing economies. And from the Insurtech perspective, I was trying to get him to talk about what the developing markets should be focusing on, how it should be working. And he corrected me quite nicely, and it might be an interesting anecdote here. He basically asked me to not try to do that comparison and think of the developing markets as somewhat maybe behind or needing to focus on other things first, because this whole wave of technology and the change in markets actually brings opportunities in a more fair way, I should say. You can actually see something happening out there or come up with an idea and implement it in any market, and then you can be the forerunner or the experimenter and create lots of value regardless of the maturity of the market in some ways. But that was an interesting correction. So in his absence, let me put it out there. But so I think I mentioned that I am coming from an intermediary as well, the digital aggregator. And I'm curious, how can intermediaries play a productive role with respect to Insurtech and specifically your services? A lot of times they're the ones shaping the customer experience, accumulating the data, and also interfacing multiple insurers. So there should be a lot we can do. And I'm curious if you could lead us on that.
Sure, Onur. So what we see is that definitely what you're saying, the biggest shift that's taking place now is consumer preferences, consumer habits, and now easily also we see it in a regulation shift. And this creates again an opportunity for those that have to react, that can react, and that can benefit from reacting on this new opportunity. Whereas on the other hand, we have an insurance companies that are going to underwrite those intermediaries or brokers, any kind of insurance policy distributor, player, or stakeholder in this distribution chain. And they have the opportunity still to stick for what for them is considered to be a core business. Yes, they might innovate, and most of them do, in a sense of adding new data capabilities that improve their underwriting capabilities as well. Still, this is considered to be a, let's say, evolutionary change. Whereas on the broker side, what I think, and those intermediaries that have a direct relationship with the customer, we are going to see a revolutionary change, because this is what will be required for them to address this opportunity properly and to find their position in the market.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Yeah. If I may add to that, I think what is important, as you mentioned in the initial reaction on this question, so how medias play a role. So they are traditionally targeted at serving the customer, and I think what we see happening now is that serving the customer with all the things that are going on in the insurance space currently is still a very, very important aspect. And so by saying that, there's a lot of opportunities for the intermediaries and the brokers to play a crucial part in that. As again said in the first topic, adapting to this new COVID world where other risks are becoming more important and others less important. So advising the customers, being that go-to person to help the customers understand the risk, and also help insurance companies to sell the policies and to serve the customer in that respect. So that is, I think, hugely important. Second, giving the platform play again and the technology in Insurtech, we've seen brokers and intermediaries take on, let's say, also different roles in this new world, where they can, with technology, evolve to different stages in the value chain. So even where they're traditionally just an intermediary, they can be more or less a digital platform in which they can tap into a bigger market even. And with that technology, they're able to work together with a lot more insurance companies maybe than they did before. So that's it. We've seen shifts in value chain there, where brokers and intermediaries take on a different role, which gives them a lot more opportunity than before even. So I think there's a huge amount of opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a place we see ourselves evolving in this market as well, in Turkish market as well. So interesting point there.
Yeah,
in terms
and
of
maybe to add to that,
yeah,
but and also to add to that, because you mentioned Turkey, and I think working in for us as a company with customers in more than 40 countries, we see a lot of difference in these countries where some of the countries where you would not expect it, but are quite innovative and are let's say on the top of where all new insurtechs and new technologies are thought out, are actually being put to production and worked with. So in Guatemala, for instance, we have a customer which is very innovative and taking all of these new trends and developments into their own process and work with those. So I think even that's we would expect that to come from, let's say, the big, well-known insurance markets, but we see a lot of these new developments also even in countries where we might even not expect it to come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back to Robin's correction of my views, which is cool. Yeah. So maybe a final question for you, because now we started talking about intermediaries and insurers. Then comes the data, and who's the owner of data? Is the customer aware or willing about sharing his or her data? Do you see an evolving mindset of ownership of data, and how does that play into your services?
Sure.
Marijan, you want to go first?
I thought it will give you some time, Christian, to think about it. But especially since we are in this B2B to B2B2C space, we really have to deal with the GDPR, data privacy, security issues on a daily basis. And meanwhile, we launched in this very data sensitive space more than 40 projects. We are talking about data coming from millions of end users. So we learned quite a few things on how the mindset of the end users as well as the insurance companies is evolving in this particular respect. And I like to sum it up in the following way. End users are not willing to give you the data. The end users are very willing to exchange their data. So if you approach them and by telling them, give me your data so I can improve my underwriting, the result can be is very intuitive and can be expected what it is. However, when you come with the new products and services that are benefiting the end user, this is something that he is very much willing to exchange his data. And this is something that he's used to from other industries, from using other products and services and so on. So I think this is one very important differentiation between those two concepts that we need to understand, right? It's not the same thing to give as well as to exchange, and exchanging is not a problem. This is how the whole world currently works. And when it comes to insurance companies, clearly the introduction of GDPR in Europe, which meanwhile became a blueprint for the rest of the countries, introduced a certain level of uncertainty in the insurance world, because they needed to adapt, they needed to understand, they needed to accommodate their processes so they can be compliant with the new regulation. But as the time goes by, we see that the insurance are coping with that quite nicely. They acquired the necessary internal know-how and understanding of the GDPR regulation. They implemented the necessary processes. And of course, we had to be always one step ahead of them in order to give them the certainty that we are the right partner for them in this particular respect, which we did. So currently, we don't, if this initial premise is fulfilled through the value proposition, there is no serious barrier in launching these new products, insurance products or services based on this sensitive behavior data on the markets.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, so and to add that, I fully agree with where there is a win-win situation, a benefit where it's given back as well, is more the model that works that we see working across multiple countries. And these data sharing initiatives, even when they are packaged as part of a insurance product, that's what we've seen a lot. But also in our area where we fight fraud, collaboration is one of the most important ways to effectively fight fraud, where insurance carriers and companies work together to solve this problem in the industry. So we've seen these new data sharing initiatives all around, and in the end, it benefits the customer and the consumers as well, because they don't have to pay for people that are actually committing fraud and trying to get money to abuse the system, right? Mm-hmm. Where I do see that, so I think two things to mention here is that sometimes we feel that companies still struggle with new types of data that are available, and they need to work out a way how to effectively, but also from a GDPR perspective, how they actually can use it, and if they may use it, and in what way. So we see front runners there, and companies that more or less sit and wait in the back to see if other companies take the lead and prove that it actually can work there. So an example there is the whole part in which video and images and processing there. So that might contain a lot of PII data, personal identifiable information, and like legal departments and compliance departments are a bit hesitant because they've not really seen that many proven use cases where it actually they see the proof that it's done safely, which the measures and the security and all that's possible from to do it, but there's in that sense some hesitance there, but yeah, working and moving forward there, the big uplift in potential that it has certainly will in the end be adopted by a much broader set of companies, we expect. And one thing actually I think to sum it up is also that we've seen that a couple of years ago insurance companies they thought that third-party data, external data was really valuable, and that's completely like everybody's convinced that they need to use that more and more as part of their process, and also the cost associated with that and the value that it brings is everybody is now convinced in the industry that is really important. So that awareness change is what we've seen happening over the last couple of years in the industry a lot.
And I understand whoever is interfacing the customer, whoever owns the customer experience, has the responsibility to explain the customer, if necessary, how and why this will be used and why this is beneficial for him. Okay, great insights. Thank you. This was very insightful for me as well and for my business. So I really appreciate it. It was nice having you here. Thanks, Christian. Thanks, Marijan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Thank you for the great moderation.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.